Yo, welcome back. Welcome back to the Shed. Say it with me. 4 Wide Fantasy
Football Podcast.
Dang, that was junky. Here we are with Season 2, Episode 2. Guys, we're in Season 2, and we are about to talk some free agents and some guys who are in new homes. How are we doing this evening, fellas?
Doing
Good.
great. Can't
Great.
wait for the draft.
Yeah, excited, anxious about the NFL draft coming up.
God.
And also, wait, are we doing a 1 minute of shine?
No, we're not doing 1 minute of shine yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But no, we are 1 week away from the NFL draft.
Let's go.
Then the landscape of the NFL changes drastically. 1 minute of shine. Shed, why don't you start us off, man?
So I'm excited about the upcoming draft with different prodigies out there. You know, we were just talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. as well as Malik Neighbors. This is a very, very deep draft. I think a lot of teams can really get their needs met all around, right? I mean, this is probably going to be one of the deepest wide receiver drafts in really years to come. So having your draft capital in the first round, actually having multiple drafts, multiple picks is very, very important. And this draft is a building block, is a start of what things to come here. So teams that are at the very top of the draft, and we were even talking about even how Arizona said that in order for them to move back out of the number 4 spot, they want 3 first rounders. I mean, the draft is good, but I don't think people are giving up that much capital just to go move up. So this is going to be an outstanding draft, and excited to see what teams do.
Yeah.
There is a good chance that the first 8 picks of the NFL draft will look a lot like a dynasty rookie draft. It is going to be all quarterbacks, receivers, and possibly a tight end in the first 8 picks of the NFL draft. It'll be very exciting for fantasy football players like us, you know.
Absolutely.
Olu, 1 minute of shine, man. You're up.
1 minute of shine. So around this time of year, I love to I actually say prayers for all these players because these kids, I mean, not as much these days anymore, but previous years and probably this year, they go from not having that much money to becoming instant millionaires with a stroke of a pen, like in a few hours. So I usually pray for them, like, man, I pray that money doesn't lead them the wrong way because we've seen it happen. Recently, we've just seen Rashid Rice. Before that, we saw Aaron Rodgers. So I pray for them. And also, I actually want to take this time to really just pray for the WNBA league because they had that draft yesterday as well. So which is great. But then if you see how much money they get, it's almost like you look how much money, they're like, man, you should have stayed in school and went to med school or something. You know? That's how much
like
money.
It's that easy.
Right. So yeah, they don't get. So I pray that, or I hope that, I pray actually that the momentum they had in college, that we all watch the game, really travels with them to the pro league because it will make it more interesting. We'll be able to bring more revenues, more eyes to the game. So send more merchandise, which will in effect increase the revenue. So I really hope, it changes things around for them. And also I'm really incredibly excited for Angela Reese and Kamala. They're both on the same team. That's nuts.
Shout out to the WNBA. No, but Olu, that's actually something you've been outspoken about, is praying for these incoming rookies.
Yeah.
I've seen you post that on social media in years past.
Yeah, I do it every year because it's like they're really getting life-changing money. A lot of people do well with it, and sometimes it just really it's a new world for them. It's a new world, and a lot. It's like with more power comes more responsibility. Yeah, so I feel for them because they're young. They're young kids, guys. They're 20s, 21, 22.
Yeah.
With more power comes more responsibility, said by the prophet Uncle Ben from Spider-Man. All right. When I was a campus minister, I once had a college student say to me, yeah, isn't there a proverb that's like, with great power comes great responsibility? I said, nope, that was Spider-Man.
That's amazing.
Right. Will, 1 minute of shine, man.
All right, I wasn't going to say this, but Olu inspired me. My 1 minute of shine, in light of these rookies who are about to get life-changing money, is Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco. So if y'all have watched some of his interviews or even a lot of the conversations that he has with Shannon Sharp on their podcast, during his career, Ochocinco spent something like 15% of his salary. That was it. And even his first 2 years, he would sleep at the facility. He basically just stayed there. And even after that, he just got an apartment close to the stadium. And now, how long has he been retired? Like 8 years, 10 years? He's been out of the league, something like that.
Yeah.
His family is set. Like he's married. He has kids. They are set, and they will be for the rest of their lives. So I'm going to shout out Ochocinco. I wasn't planning to, but, man, for these rookies, if y'all could follow his example, my gosh, you are setting up future generations. It's amazing to think about that.
And Gronk, too. Gronk.
Gronk. I think Gronk lived off of endorsements alone.
Yep.
Like, he didn't even spend his salary.
Time in his NFL money yet.
Chad Johnson I loved Chad Johnson. I remember one year, I think it was like 2006 or 2007, I drafted Chad Johnson and Terrell Owens in the same league, and I named my team name Team Grudge.
Oh, no.
No, but I mean, how could you not like the guy? It's true. He's my type of guy. He lived off of endorsements.
But yeah,
he was smart. Yeah. He was just smart. You know, my 1 minute of shine has nothing to do with football. Oh, shout out to the UConn men's basketball team.
Nice.
For 5 years of my life, I lived right outside of Storrs, Connecticut, and led a church at the University of Connecticut. I ministered to many of the women's basketball team and the men's basketball team, and I'm just so happy that these guys repeated. Really excited for them. So shout out. And actually, when I lived in Connecticut, that's when I got close to Will, because Will actually lived maybe about an hour from me in Southwest Connecticut. But that's when me and Will really connected. But shout out to the UConn men's basketball team. Go Huskies. But anyways, we have an exciting episode for you guys today. Thanks for stopping back in, listening to us, whether it be on YouTube or on Spotify or wherever you are. But today, we're going to keep it simple. We have one segment. Is that it, guys? Just one segment today?
Just one.
We're going to have to actually, yeah, so just one segment. We're going to round out and finish out some of the top, not just free agents, but some of the guys in new homes. So some people who were free agents and some people who were traded. But what we're not going to do today, we should save it for next week, guys. We should do our own mock draft again, our last minute pre-draft mock draft. But today what we're going to do is we're going to round out some guys, talk about some guys who are new homes, fantasy implications, and what you ought to do with these guys going forward. So why don't we just kick it off? Why don't we talk first and foremost about the new Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, Russell Wilson.
Let's go.
Russell Wilson, let's ride. So, a whole pack of Badgers. So, Russell Wilson signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers for only $1.2 million. I don't even think the contract has any guarantees. We are at a point in time where Russell Wilson, who was a top 5 quarterback not too long ago, is now signing a 1-year deal for $1.2 million to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have done nothing but have winning records for the last, decade? You pair him with Mike Tomlin, add him to the Pittsburgh offense. Last year, he was benched prematurely for probably political reasons or financial reasons, but he finished the season with 3,070 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, while rushing for another 314 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, this isn't the same Russell Wilson from 4 years ago in Seattle. When he got to Denver, he didn't seem like the same guy under Sean Payton. But let's talk about him now. Russ Wilson with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. What do you guys think? How should we evaluate Russ Wilson, and what does this mean for the players around him?
Let
I'll
me go
say
real
no.
quick. Yeah, let me go real quick because I know Olu is going to have more to say about this. But first thing I'll say for the team is the Steelers are a playoff team with a competent quarterback. I mean, they were last year had Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Mitch Trubisky, and they were a playoff team. So yes, they're a playoff team with Russell Wilson. They're going to add another receiver in the draft, or maybe they'll trade for Ayuk. That'd be amazing. And Arthur Smith is not a coach who's going to, help all his players put up great numbers. But when he was with the Titans and had Tannehill, AJ Brown, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill had a top 10 season. AJ Brown had a great season with him. So he can put together a competent offense with a good offensive line, decent running backs. He's got that in Pittsburgh. They're a playoff team. It's definitely an improvement. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to be a league-winning quarterback in fantasy, though.
So what, you have him at like a quarterback 2, quarterback 3?
Yes, in that range. So I would say overall finish in the 15 to 18 range.
Wow.
And that is also a reflection of the amazing quarterback talent in the league. I just think there's that many guys better than him. That's how far the talent has come.
I respect that. So who else wants to weigh in on this and what this could mean for Russ or even the guys around him?
Yeah, let me go because I know Ola wants to go here as well too. So going to Pittsburgh, I don't think Russ is expected to do too much, and maybe this kind of goes to what Will was saying too about not being a top tier back. He's not expected to do much. Whereas when he was back in Denver, right, he was actually expected to be a superstar, expected to make the plays. I think in Pittsburgh, they just want him to make the plays when he's supposed to make the plays, take him out of critical situations, and just don't turn the ball over. Russ had more passing touchdowns last year than all the Steelers QB did the year before, right? And Russ by himself adds, I would say, another 2 to 3 more wins, which goes to Will's point by him saying that, this is a playoff team, by just adding Russell Wilson. This is such a great deal for the Steelers, both Russ and, let me throw Fields in there combined, their entire QB room is less than $4.5 million moving forward, and just kind of getting looking online and getting an idea of what people are saying. People are saying, like Mina Khan, she was saying this is A+ value, and then Russell Wilson throws a beautiful ball, and Pickens obviously will be the beneficiary of that, which I know Olu likes that as well too. So yes, this is going to be a good pickup. Russ, even his bad year last year, he was still a pretty decent QB. Yeah, but I see him in QB 13 to QB 16 range.
Yeah, I want to really like Russell Wilson. He seems like a stand-up guy. He's respectable. He's liked around the league, but the last few years, just I don't know if he's dropped off. I don't. I mean, he's a good quarterback. The last 2 years just haven't been great, but I do see this. I mean, if you think about the guys around him, this is great for a George Pickens. This is great for a Najee Harris. I'm not quite sure about Pat Freiermuth because Russ hasn't really been one to utilize the tight end like that. But obviously, this is better quarterback play for everybody in that system. So I would want to say stock is up on all these guys, and I would say stock is even up on Russell Wilson because if Mike Tomlin could take Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and make them into a playoff team, Russell Wilson is more talented than those guys. But Olu, what do you want to say, man? I know you have some stock in this one.
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of stock in it. And I think Russell Wilson's demise might have been overly exaggerated, and his impact on the Steelers might be underhyped. Okay, so let's check it out. So Will said he's going to be receiver 18, right? In his worst year, which we all agree was at Denver, your first year in Denver, he finished as quarterback 16, a 16 quarterback. Okay, so that's number one. And number two, you guys have to remember in his first year in Denver, he was playing with Hackett was offensive coordinator. He's horrible, guys. And then
Stinks.
horrible. He's the worst ever. And then Cutlass Sutton was hurt. Or was it Cutlass Sutton or Patrick? Who was hurt? Tim Patrick. In his first year, his number one receiver was hurt. So he didn't have all the weapons he thought he was gonna have going there. And then we have Judy dropping balls left and right. So he didn't have any much of talent. And then the second year, Sean Payton came, but still, it was still the same thing. The O line wasn't as good as we thought it was. The receivers weren't as good either. And then now you guys have to remember though, Russell Wilson turned Tyler Lockett into a fantasy juggernaut during this time. Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. He was able to support both of them. Now go to the Steelers. You have Pickens. Pickens who loves to he can catch contested catch. He can get separations. And then what else? Who else? Then you have Najee Harris. And what is Russell? One of the things Russell has done a lot of recently, right? He has passed the ball to his running back. He has done a lot of checkdowns and let them take it in. Okay, so 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 he dumps it off to his running back, and now you have Cordell Patterson in the lineup as well. So he's really really set up to do all this. So I feel like Russell stuck is really up.
So where would you put him, Olu? Because obviously, and we say Olu has a lot of stock in this because we all share a dynasty league together, and Olu has on his dynasty team Russ Wilson, Justin Fields,
George
Pickens, and Pat Fryermuth. So, Olu, where would you put objectively, not based off of emotion, but where do you think Russ Wilson falls? Like a range of quarterbacks.
I really think this can be this is a big year for him, and he's in a really really understated situation for him. So let's put it this way: last year he finished as quarterback 14 without even finishing the season. He had better. He edged Baker Mayfield in the fantasy points. So I can confidently put him in a range of 8 and 9. I'm sorry, 8 and 10 easily without emotions, just based on the stuff. And Pat Furman is actually a really good tight end. In the last time Pat Furman was healthy, the last time was healthy for full time, he was tight end 6 without a good QB. So
Yeah, he's good. No, the Steelers, they'll be fine, right? They'll be fine. I think if they add another premier receiver, it will hurt Pickens a little bit because he's not going to get all those targets.
he will because Russell has shown he can support 2 top receivers easily.
So here's my thing. Granted, I'm a Russ fan. I like Russell Wilson. He finished as quarterback 14, but let's not forget last year, Burrow missed a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert missed, and I'm not a big Herbert fan, but the guy put some numbers. Herbert missed a lot of time. Anthony Richardson missed a lot of time.
Not put Anthony Richardson because we don't. As far as we know, he might not be even relevant.
No. He is absolutely relevant because in the weeks that he played, he was excellent as far as fantasy quarterbacks go.
Okay.
Week 1, he finished as quarterback 4.
Yeah, for fantasy, he's going to be a better fantasy quarterback than a real life quarterback.
He finished as quarterback 2 in week 4.
By the way, let's not get it twisted. Russell can rush too now.
But he's hesitant to. He's hesitant.
He rushed for 314 yards last year.
Right. Because he's played with Sean Payton, who hadn't played like a game manager. He's now playing with Tomlin. You know what Tomlin is. Tomlin lets this stuff fly. Like Tomlin doesn't care. Tomlin is like Tomlin played with Big Ben and we saw how that looked like. Tomlin will let you go. Tomlin unleashes his players.
Yeah, but the thing about Russ though, he's 35 years old now. I don't know how much he's going to be rushing at this point of his career.
Okay, let's see.
Don't get me wrong, he's an accurate passer. He throws a great deep ball. I think he'll have a better year in Pittsburgh than he did in either of his years in Denver.
Absolutely. That's not my question.
I think 8 to 10 is, I think it's a little aggressive, but that's a low-end quarterback 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's just me that's just me being conservative. But we just have to
That's
see.
conservative.
that's conservative. 8.
Hold on, Olu. So 8 to 10. No, just think about it. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow,
Lamar,
Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson,
CJ Stroud,
CJ. So that's 8 already.
Jordan Love,
Okay,
Jordan
okay.
Love.
All right,
You're
before we
saying
put
he's
Dak,
going to be
Dak
Dak. You're saying
Prescott.
he's going to be better than at least 2 of those guys.
all right, guys, let's step back a little bit. CJ had a really good season last year, right? A great season, matter of fact. He wasn't a huge fantasy quarterback. And here's the thing: CJ Stroud,
What?
he was
No. Hold on.
he wasn't a huge fantasy guy last year.
He was Olu. He was.
Wasn't
that?
he was 6, right? He was 6 overall.
Was not.
He was average. He was about
He
top
finished
12.
the year as quarterback 11
Yeah,
Yep.
he was 11.
Okay.
for a rookie.
As a rookie though.
Okay, right. Okay, so let's give him that, right? So now we have all those guys. Anthony Richardson, I'm not gonna put in there. I cannot do it. That's not even cool to even do because Anthony Richardson predictably got hurt. That was so predictable. You know the way he played. The way he played, I'm like, dude, slow down. Like you're gonna get hurt. And guess what? What you know? He got hurt. So let's hold up from that. Who else? What was Jordan?
Burrow, Herbert.
I want to ask this. Would you take him over Tua in fantasy football?
Tua is not a very good fantasy quarterback.
I mean,
honestly.
Tua finished the year as quarterback 9 last year.
Okay, well, I guess after. All right, so with Tua, so here's the thing: because of Tua's surrounding cast, I probably would take Tua because all he has to do is do a 5-yard dump to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill takes it for 90 yards. So yes, I'll probably take Tua.
Let's keep it going now. No, Russ stock is up. Whatever you had him rated as last year, he's rated higher this year. Simply put. And Justin Fields, I don't think Justin Fields is as much of a threat to Russell Wilson as people may have said he was. I could see Russ Wilson playing the whole season. Anyways, let's move on. Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, the King Henry. Okay, now Derrick Henry signed a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens. He has $9 million guaranteed on his contract. Last year, Derrick Henry, even at 29 years old, still played 17 games, rushed 280 times for 1,167 yards and 12 touchdowns. Now, here's the issue, though. He rushed for a career low 4.17 yards per carry. Derrick Henry is now 30 years old. Historical data shows that is these guys typically reach their peak between ages 24 to 26 or 27. But obviously, as we know, when it comes to historical data, throw it out the window when we evaluate Derrick Henry because the man is built differently. Okay. He moves over to Baltimore to play with Lamar Jackson, the John Harbaugh offense, which is very successful. What are you guys' thoughts on Derrick Henry? Olu, why don't you go first, man?
Okay, so I will go there because I feel strongly about this. So when we talk about he's quote unquote is him taking a step back last year, we also have to look at the context in which he was playing. He was playing a Tennessee offense in which he was the sole offense. They had barely any receivers. They had barely any playmakers. The quarterback was barely efficient. You know, Tannehill was benched and Will Levis came in rookie. So everybody knew when you play the Titans, they are going to run the ball. So they load the box up. The fact that he actually got 4.1 yards per carry in that offense tells us how productive he actually is. So that tells us more. That actually, so we can spin it in different ways. We can say, man, he's taking a step back, or we can say, wow, he actually got this done in this offense. That's saying a lot. Now you take that, regardless of his age, he's ageless, as we all can see. We see his videos, he walks out every day. Now you take that person and put them in a boat. I'm laughing because I'm seeing in my head already the damage they're gonna do next season. You put him in a Baltimore offense, right? Where you have to worry. I mean, you don't have to worry about the receivers much, but you do. You still have to worry about Zay Flowers. Hopefully, they draft another good. You have to worry about Mark Andrews, and likely you have to worry about them. So that opens things up a little bit for him. Then you have to worry about Lamar Jackson. So what I really envision in my head is I see the chemistry with Mark Ingram and Lamar in that first MVP year. That chemistry was nothing like none I've ever seen. I envision that. I see them working on that, and that's gonna spell trouble for the league. Like I'm afraid what they're gonna do to defenses.
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder as to what Baltimore looked like when they signed Mark Ingram. And it's interesting because Derrick Henry, how can you not like the guy? He's been productive ever since he took on the lead back roles. So my thing with Henry is it's wild because last year he led the league in carries again with 280 carries. So he led the league in carries, but the thing that last year that we saw from him that we didn't see before was his opportunities dipped. His opportunity share or his snap share was only 54.2%. So he took less snaps than he has in years past. He was number 25 with snap share. But his rushing yards, he was second in the league in rushing yards. You know, outside of Christian McCaffrey, we didn't really see many running backs run for a whole mess of yards, but Henry continues to produce. It was interesting. I wouldn't say it was his best year, not by any stretch of the imagine, but, you know, he went from, in 2022, he had pretty much 350 carries for 1,500 yards. Then last year, 280 carries for 1,167 yards. So his yards per carry went down. His opportunities went down. But even in a down year, he was still one of the best running backs in the league. And I think it's just true greatness, what he is. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's going to do awesome in Baltimore. If Baltimore made Gus Edwards a legitimate fantasy starter for a few weeks, imagine what they're going to do. And honestly, I don't think the fact that Lamar Jackson, like typically running quarterbacks don't check the ball down a lot. And Lamar Jackson, not going to check the ball down. But that doesn't matter because Derrick Henry doesn't catch the ball. Derrick Henry doesn't do damage by catching the passes. So, you know, I think it's interesting. I think he's still going to be very productive. I think he could be more productive this year at age 30 in Baltimore than he was last year in Tennessee, a year younger. Why? Because of the system. Well, before you go, why don't we? Did any of the other guys want to say anything?
Yes, I am buying Derrick Henry wherever I can because I think people are worried about the age, right? Hitting that age 30 mark. But last year on one of the worst offenses in the NFL, and this is coming from a Titans fan, one of the worst offenses in the league, 1,200 yards, 12 rushing touchdowns. The Ravens, like Matt said, made Gus Edwards fantasy relevant. Lamar Jackson is going to open things up. They have receivers that will open things up. I think a top 5 fantasy finish for this year is not out of the question. So I'm buying him everywhere I can because he's going to get the goal line carries. Lamar doesn't do QB sneaks. He just doesn't. They were giving all that to Gus Edwards last year. And then the rushing lanes will be so much more open with the threat of the pass, the threat of Lamar, and then one of the best offensive lines in the league. So I am buying Derrick Henry wherever I can.
Top 5. Yep. Shed, what do you think, man?
Yeah, so what's interesting is that besides actually going to Dallas, Baltimore is probably the best landing spot for Derrick Henry, right? Kind of like you said, Matt, last year he was second in the league, but he was also tied for fourth in the league in rushing touchdowns, only behind Mostert, CMC, Montgomery, and Gus Edwards. Interesting you said Gus Edwards will because he was on Baltimore, so those touchdowns should actually go up. Just give you historical context here. His last 3 years, he has the most rushing yards with over 3,600, most touchdowns with 38 touchdowns. And keep in mind, he was doing this against 8 and 9 man front, right? Now give him a team that's number 1 in rushing in 2023, and this is a recipe for tremendous success, right? And as a team, the Ravens will rush for more yards in 2024. But I wonder, as a team, they'll be better, but I wonder how will his personal production be? Because even with Mark Ingram, if you look at the year with Lamar, he didn't average as much yards as like a Jonathan Taylor when it was all by himself. Like the team will be better and he'll still be good, but will he still be his elite self? I don't know. He'll still be good, but we'll see how high that value can actually go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Mark Ingram isn't Derrick Henry on a good day. Like
No.
Mark Ingram on his best day is not Derrick Henry. Like this guy is just built different, man. Olu, were you going to say something else about him before we move on?
So for people worried about his age, Mark Ingram was 30 years old when he signed with the Baltimore Ravens. Exactly 30. And he had his second best season ever. He had 10 touchdowns, over 1,800 yards. And if Mark Ingram can do that, because Mark Ingram was in decline, obviously, I think with a better Ravens offense, I think Derrick Henry can blow it out the water. And
so do we all think Derrick Henry is a top 5 running back?
Absolutely.
Fantasy points?
Pre-CMC, Henry, right? Like
Gibbs and Bijan.
Kyren's up there too. Jamar Gibbs.
I have Henry ahead of Kyren, and I'd put him ahead of Gibbs just because we don't know how that split is going to go with Montgomery. And Henry gets all the volume, right? There's no competition. I mean, Keaton Mitchell, if he's healthy, is a change of pace, but Henry's getting all of that.
Guys, those guys we're mentioning now, they're gonna share carries with other guys. Mark Henry will probably not share as much carries as they are because he's the workhorse. The workhorse. And looking at his previous year with the Titans, he's been 5. The only time he's been lower, last year he was 8. He was running back 8. Again, not a great offense. Before that, he was 21 the year he got hurt. After that, he was always 3, 5th, 4th. So I don't see why he can't be. All right, I'm going to push the envelope. I don't see why he can't be top 3 with the ball.
Hold on.
Get this.
That's too much.
Right now, Underdog Sports, which is where a lot of best ball drafting takes place, they have him as running back 10.
I disagree.
They have him as running back 10. They have above him Christian McCaffrey, Bijan, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kyren Williams, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, and then Derrick Henry.
Well, guess what? People should make that bet then. I would take that bet gladly. 10? Are you kidding me? Derrick Henry
They have Josh Jacobs and Devon Achane right above him.
Devon Achane. Come on, guys. What are we doing?
Let's move on. So we disagree with some of these quote unquote experts, but we'll stand by that. I think we all agree that I think Derrick Henry's a top 5 back.
Guys, whenever we all agree, then we're probably right. We'll say
we don't all agree often.
Ever.
Yeah, we don't. Actually,
Olu, you are the dissenting voice in this group. The one that's always saying, look,
I'm using the right one, though.
The Chiefs will not win the Super Bowl. They're going to lose. It's going to be a blowout.
Okay, that's what you're going to go to, bro.
Let's move on. Stefon Diggs. Why don't we talk about Stefon Diggs? Stefon Diggs has been a topic of discussion for the 4 Wide Fantasy Football Podcast for quite some time. He was the guy who, towards the end of last season, we were always saying, sit Stefon Diggs. Something is wrong in Buffalo. Something is wrong with Stefon Diggs. And ultimately, the Bills just said, you know what? We done. we are out. And so they traded Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans to play with CJ Stroud alongside Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Stephon Diggs ultimately, and it was weird because the Houston Texans reworked his deal. I think he had like 3 years left on contract, and they reworked the deal to make it a 1-year contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
For about $22.5 million. So ultimately, Houston is saying, we're with you right now, but we're not committed long term. Stephon Diggs last year finished the season 107 catches, 1,183 yards, and 8 touchdowns. And that was considered more of a down year for Stephon Diggs as of recently. So Stephon Diggs now finds his new home in Houston. What do you guys think? Oh, wait, let me correct myself. I said that considered a down year. He had more targets than he had the year before. 2022, he had 110 catches. 2023, he had 107 catches. But the difference was 300 yards. Golly. And 3 less touchdowns. His yards per catch went down drastically. Anyways, what do you guys think about Stephon Diggs? Where would you rate him? What does this do for the Houston Texans offense? Will, why don't you go first, man?
I'm just going to say I would not be targeting Stephon Diggs this year. I think he's going to go way earlier in redraft than he needs to because of the name. He's got the name recognition, and people are going to see him and snatch him. But he needed 160 targets last year to have 107 catches. He's not getting anywhere near 160 targets in Houston. I would say maybe 110, 120 targets. So I think he's going to be in the 70 to 80 catch range. I don't think he sniffs 1,000 yards. I don't think he sniffs 8 touchdowns. So I predict him finishing in the wide receiver 22 to 30 range. So maybe a middle round pick. I would take Nico Collins and Tank over Diggs for this season. Both of those guys over Diggs as far as production. Yes, without looking back.
Woo. Bold. I mean, he's a bigger name.
Bigger name, but bigger name from the past. CJ has established chemistry. Diggs is coming in. And his drop-off the second half of last year, Diggs, it wasn't for lack of targets. He was still getting tons of volume and just wasn't producing. And he's not going to get anywhere near that volume this year. So I think the issues were bigger than personality conflicts. I think he's starting to fall off. So I think Houston brought him in as a nice third receiver for those 3 receiver packages. Obviously, he's an upgrade over Noah Brown or John Mechie. We don't even need to discuss that. But he's not going to be in the top 20 fantasy receivers.
That sounds like a popular name today.
Yeah, I don't. What's interesting? That's an interesting take right there. Because the first thing with the contract, with the Texans is that by him signing that deal, I think that was more. Yeah, they both mutually agreed, but I think that was more Stephon Diggs because he's all about his money. He wants to get another long-term deal, so there had to be mutual agreement there. From a fantasy perspective, I think signing Diggs is going to impact more of a Tank Dell than a Nico Collins. I think Stephon Diggs is going to still get his fantasy relevance. That's a good point, Will, on 160 targets. But I think that he's going to get his shine there. But here's the thing with Diggs. He didn't even end the season last year on a high note with the last 5 games. He averaged, 5 catches, 67 yards, and get this 0 touchdowns. Right. And he went from a guy within the first 9 games averaging 25 fantasy points to the last 5 game averaging 11 fantasy points. Like, I think a lot of that just due to him wanting to be out of Buffalo and want a new deal. But I still think he's going to be relevant. I do think he's going to go higher than needed in redraft leagues. But I think the impact player will be impacted is going to be Tank Dell.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I'm out on Stephon Diggs simply because I think people are going to want to draft him in like the 2nd, 3rd, maybe as late as the 4th round.
Yeah, don't do that.
Of your fantasy draft. And I'm just not going to do that. I don't think he's a wide receiver 1 anymore. Not in Houston at this point. think the talent is there, but I think Houston knows something. I think the way in which he left Minnesota wasn't good. The way in which he left Houston wasn't good. I mean, was he traded to Houston? Or
Yeah.
did he sign?
Yeah, traded, and the Bills ate $30 million in dead cap.
So when you, oh no, excuse me, was he traded to Buffalo?
Yes, he was traded to Buffalo.
When you got a guy who's been traded twice, there's probably a reason why. I mean, most guys don't get traded twice in their career. You may get traded once. And if you're traded once, that's because what the franchise and what the organization is going to acquire, they value more than you're behind in their uniform. He was traded twice. And I don't think it was for financial reasons. I think it has something to do with his personality or something. Houston basically said, look, we are committed to only 1 year of you. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not working out and then all of a sudden he is not in their game script. I think his talent is there. I think he could be disgruntled. He publicly voiced his displeasure with Buffalo at certain points towards the end of the season last year. That is toxic. I like what he's done on the field. Hey, shout out to the Minnesota Miracle. But I'm not buying him for fantasy football. Obviously, this doesn't hurt CJ Stroud, but I'm not buying him. Does anyone else feel anything differently though?
I don't. I'm not sure if I feel anything different necessarily, but I would buy him low. I would buy low for sure. He's a buy low, high reward player because okay, let's take the argument against him. Let's say he's a troubled player. Boom. He can't be worse than Antonio Brown when Antonio Brown went to Tampa Bay. So my point with that is he can at least behave for a year. We've seen it. He has behaved in multiple places for a year. So let's just assume he will behave for a year. All right, cool. So let's assume he's wide receiver 3. I'm assuming the worst case scenario. He's wide receiver, he's now wide receiver 1. Stephon Diggs versus the quarterback 3 on any team is a matchup nightmare. Always. Guess who CJ will always go to? Because it's always going to be open if he's wide receiver 1. If he's in the slot. Wide receiver 3, it will always be open against wherever cornerback is. So I feel like with those facts that I just stated, he's a person you probably will be. You could target low. You can target low or get by low. However, he can yield you maximum return eventually, or not even eventually. He could potentially yield you maximum return just based on because we are going unknowns right now. It's a lot of unknowns. And
where do they line him up?
I think slot. It has to be slot.
I think he's gonna be a slot.
It has to be slot, and that's gonna open a lot of things. Because if it's slot, you sure as well need to pay attention to Tank Dell, unless you would lose a lot of games. You need to pay attention to Nico Collins, who has a lot. He's a Yak King as well. So you cannot double up Diggs anymore like he used to get doubled with the Buffalo Bills. He got doubled a lot. There's nobody else taking away heat from him with the Buffalo. But in this offense, there would not be one single person who can afford to double anyone. So that's why I feel like it's a huge opportunity if you can get him low. Bro, if you can get him low, that's a huge opportunity for whoever gets him.
Where do we so really quickly, where do you guys all have him as far as range, wide receiver? Where do you think he falls? Without explanation, so we can move on.
Okay, maybe 11 to 15. 15.
He was a wide receiver 9 this year. Towards the end, I probably have him between 14 to 18 range.
Yeah, in here. 14. Why, you think that's low or high?
I think that's high.
No, it can't be
that's
low.
high.
No,
I'd have him between 16 and 22 at best.
No, I can't do that.
What do you think, Will?
Yeah, there's too many question marks. I'm not. If he really drops in a draft, I'd take him, but not in the 4th round or earlier. It's just
But where do you think
Oh,
he
wow.
finishes?
Put
What
on-
range?
I
Where do you think he
put
finishes?
I put 22 to 30. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Really?
So here it is. Olu's highest on him. Will is lowest. But let's move on, guys. For time's sake, we got to move on.
Wait,
We got
the biggest question we should ask ourselves is CJ good enough to support 3 top receivers?
The great Peyton Manning in his heyday could only support 3 pass catchers. However you want to rate those three pass catchers, right? I don't think CJ can support on a high fantasy on a NFL field level, sure, but on a fantasy level, no.
Well, wait. The great Peyton Manning actually supported 4, if you think about it, because he had Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne. He had
Brandon Staley and Dallas Clark.
Brandon Stokely, and Dallas Clark.
Yes, Stokely.
And he had a season where all 3 of his wide receivers had 10 touchdowns each in 2004.
So it's possible.
It's possible, but
CJ,
yeah.
But what CJ did at Ohio State, he was working with Marvin Harrison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Emeka Egbuka.
Well, before that, he had Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson.
And then
And Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Right. First round, all of them.
CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. But guys, we got to move on. Let's talk about the man who is going to be regarded as one of the most underrated receivers of all time. A man who is very reliable, who is sure-handed, and everybody loves him, but nobody talks about him.
Jerry Jeudy.
His name is Keenan Allen, and Keenan Allen has moved on, not by choice, but by trade, from the Los Angeles Chargers to the Chicago Bears. Keenan Allen, here's what's interesting about him. He played 13 games last year. So he didn't even play a full season, yet he had a career best 108 catches for 1,243 yards and 7 touchdowns. Prior to his season ending early, I think he was a top 3 wide receiver. Keenan Allen goes over to Chicago to play with who everyone is assuming to be Caleb Williams, alongside DJ Moore. With the newly signed DeAndre Swift in the backfield, and let's not forget they also have Cole Kmet. Chicago also has the 9th pick of the draft, who some think will be another receiver. We don't know. But Keenan Allen is in Chicago now. What do you guys have to say about that? Where should we rate him? Will, why don't you go first?
Good question.
All right, I just got to give respect to Keenan Allen first. And I just was looking at this. So since 2017, we're going back 7 seasons, other than 2022, where he only played 10 games. He had finishes of wide receiver 3, 12, 8, 14, 13, and last year wide receiver 8, and had about 100 catches or more in all 7 of those years where he played a full year. So at 31 years old, obviously he's still got it. I mean, this man's been in the league since 2013, and he just gets it done, never gets the respect, never gets the props or the notoriety. I do think there will be a drop-off going to Chicago, though, because you think about the quarterbacks he's had, to go from Phillip Rivers directly to Justin Herbert, that's amazing. Okay, from a quarterback talent standpoint, that is a rare career pairing. He's never had worse than Phillip Rivers or Justin Herbert. We don't know what Caleb Williams is going to be. Obviously, presumably the number 1 overall pick to the Bears. I think he's going to be good, but I don't think in his rookie year he's going to help Keenan Allen be the wide receiver 8. So I think there will be a drop-off. I would predict a finish in the 15 to 18 range is it's more realistic for him this year, because DJ Moore will get a lot of those targets. They're going to run the ball a lot. And with a rookie quarterback, there's just so many unknowns. So the talent's there, but he's not going to be in the wide receiver 8 range. I would say 15 to 18.
Let me add this. I mean, Keenan Allen reminds me of Mike Evans, right? Like, I feel like they're both like wine. As they get older, they get finer, right? I mean, he's he's like Mike Evans, and neither are really quarterback dependent. That's the thing. I feel like, and then so even with like a rookie quarterback, even if you struggle, I feel like Keenan Allen can also still get his. He missed. I think Matt, you mentioned this. He missed 4 games, but he still finished at wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8. And like you were saying, Will, he ended the season as wide receiver 3, only behind CD and also Tyreek. And he is age 31, and he actually turns 32 at the end of this month, April here. So he's a good, solid security blanket for a rookie wide receiver. I feel like he'll get his. Cole Kmet would get his. And being a rookie quarterback throwing to him, I see actually DJ Moore as the one who kind of struggles. And DJ Moore, and they're both interesting, right? They both have been top wide receiver ones on their teams, but I can see that Keenan Allen will be the alpha, and DJ Moore may take a step back.
Oh yeah, I see. Keenan Allen will lead the team in catches. I think it's safe. Now, I don't think he'll lead the team in yards, but I think he could lead the team in catches. Keenan Allen could be an incredibly reliable target for Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is no slouch, though. Like, Will, you talked about how Keenan Allen has played with Phillip Rivers, Justin Herbert, and now essentially he'll be playing with Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams will be a better NFL quarterback than Justin Herbert.
Whoa, really?
Absolutely.
I don't think
Absolutely.
that's hard to do.
Okay.
I think he'll be a better NFL quarterback. I don't know if it'll be his rookie year. Could be. Beats me. Caleb Williams is going to step into a situation that no number 1 overall pick has ever stepped into. Actually, a competent offense. Most number 1 overall picks come into trash. Okay? Look at Bryce Young. He came into trash. When Joe Burrow came into the league, it was into trash. Okay? Most of these guys come into that. Caleb Williams is coming into DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Swift, and Cole Kmet in a competent offensive line.
True.
Hello. So I think Keenan Allen, but here's the thing, though, about Keenan Allen. Last year, he played 13 games. The year before that, he played 10. We usually see wide receivers production drop off at what age? Age 30. Keenan Allen will be 31. He was highly productive last year, but he was also the only reliable, competent player on that offense. They lost Mike Williams. They lost Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnson was a bust. Stinking Austin Eckler disappeared. They had nobody. Nobody. And so what did we see from Keenan Allen? Keenan Allen had stinking 20 targets in one game. You only give someone 20 targets if there's nobody else to pass the ball to. He had 20 targets in one game. Keenan Allen had 16 targets in back-to-back weeks. So I don't think he's going to get volume like that. I think he can still be very productive, but I think his production continues to drop off. Is his body breaking down? God, I hope not. But it's tough to evaluate this man at this point. That's my thoughts. I said a lot.
All right, I'll go. I think Keenan Allen will finish the year within the 10 range. 10 receiver.
Top 10 receiver?
Yeah, here's why.
How?
I'll tell you why.
Olu's aggressive with these predictions.
Yes.
Well, listen. I'm telling you why. There's always a reason why. There's always, there's always a reason, to method to the madness. It's because of the quarterback, not because it's an amazing quarterback or anything. It's because the way the quarterback plays. If you've seen Williams play, he's almost like he doesn't follow any rules of quarterbacking that exist. He plays very unorthodox in terms of like backyard football. He would make crazy pass to the side. He would run up, and then in order for you to do that, you need a solid slot receiver that can get open easily, can eat up zone, eat up man, separate. He has that in Keenan Allen. So I can absolutely see him and Keenan Allen really doing magic together, dancing together in terms of like him always like you said, he will probably lead the league in catches because of just the way the quarterback plays. He plays like he would run, throw the ball to the side as long as the guy's open. He would like he plays very unorthodox the way he played. Because of that reason alone, I foresee Keenan Allen having a lot of catches, moving the chain a lot. And that counts for a lot of PPR points in fantasy football. And that's why I say that. I'm not saying that he's going to score. He's going to be a prolific, like, top receiver. But in terms of when we're talking about fantasy point, getting the first downs, he's going to be doing a lot of that. That's what I foresee. I don't know. What do you guys think about what I said?
He'll be a security blanket for sure for Caleb. I like that. So maybe a lot of targets. I don't think he's going to be top 10. I think that's a stretch because he's going to need touchdowns. He's going to need a lot of yards to be in that range. So I think he'll get targets, but it's not going to be, game breaking numbers.
Yeah, I can see mid-range wide receiver 2 at best. Mid-range wide receiver 2.
And what's
That's
that?
what I see.
What do you put that?
15 to 18,
20.
right? Okay.
14 to 20. Like, yeah, 15 8, same difference.
Okay,
That's
I'll
what I
give
see
you
the best.
10, between 10 and 15.
Shed, you have any predictions? His range?
Yeah, 12 to 16.
Okay. So what we know, what is consistent is Shed is the most aggressive and Will is the most conservative. Guys, last one we'll do really quickly. We're not going to talk about it. Let's just give quick predictions of where Hollywood Brown will end his season. Hollywood found himself a new home and a new quarterback with the 2-time reigning champs Kansas City Chiefs to play alongside one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league in Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid offense. Will Rashee Rice play 17 games? Probably not. Marquise Hollywood Brown finds himself stepping into an offense that is missing a top receiver. Could Kansas City draft a receiver at the end of round 1? Probably. Most experts have that. But we do know that Patrick Mahomes can spread the ball around. So here we have Hollywood Brown coming into Kansas City. We're not going to give many takes, guys. Where do you guys see him finishing? What's the range of Hollywood Brown? Will?
I see him as a quality wide receiver 2 if Rice is suspended and if they don't take a receiver first round. Both of those are unlikely. I think with Rice playing most of the season, and I think they'll take a wide receiver early, Marquise Brown is going to get a portion of those targets. Travis Kelce's still there, obviously. So I think more like 26 to 30 overall wide receiver finish. That's where I see him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a wide receiver 3, man.
Right. So I think he only gets up to 2 status if there's just no one else there with a suspension, but I don't think that's likely.
Yeah, I see him between 40 and 50. Like, he's not.
Whoa, 40 to 50.
Okay, put it this way.
The career worst for him, and now he's got the best quarterback he's ever had.
Career worst for him. He's done way worse. He did worse last year. And then anyway, Hollywood Brown, he runs a 4.3 and he was a first round pick. If you have a first round receiver who's been bounced around 3 times before his rookie contract is over, that tells you all you need to know. He's pretty much I don't know what the difference is between him and Mecole Hardman, because there isn't any difference between Marquise Hollywood Brown and Hollywood and Mecole Hardman. So I don't see him going to KC and all of a sudden becomes this top receiver where he's even top 10 or even top 20. So I think he will stay where he actually is currently, which is between 40 and 50. Nothing will change. That doesn't change. He's not a game breaker. He's not a game changer. He's not any of that. He's easily guarded. He's easily erased from the game.
Shed, what do you think, man?
So what's interesting about this, right, is even per the whole Rashee Rice incident that was out there, right, Hollywood's fantasy value was still on a rise, just going to the Chiefs in general. But with questions on Rice, I do see his value even rising more. And regardless of what happens, let's say Rice comes back after two or three games or whatever the situation is, Hollywood is still needed. He is their big play guy and allows them to ultimately stretch the field. Possibly the biggest beneficiary of that would be like a Travis Kelce, because when he stretches the field, defense stretches as well. Give Kelce room to actually operate. But I can see him being in that 25 to 30 range, and you're talking like that's where a Jacoby Myers, a Calvin Ridley, a Chris Godwin was that last year. That's kind of where I see him. He's going to stretch the field. I don't know how many underneath routes he'll do, but I think he will give you between 14 and 17 points a game.
So I have a question for you guys. Who is his comp? Who's Michael Hollywood Brown's comp that you guys can think of?
That's a good question.
A poor man, Deshaun Jackson.
No.
Yeah, Deshaun Jackson is a good comp. Deshaun Jackson was never a wide receiver one in fantasy. He was never a wide receiver one.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He wasn't. And Hollywood is 5'9". I think Deshaun's 5'10". That's a good comp.
Yeah, but Marquise Hollywood Brown runs more of the route tree.
Does he?
Yes, Deshaun Jackson ran 2 routes. Deep down the middle, deep down the sideline. That's who he was. He was a field stretcher.
He ran through all the routes he needed to ever run to make a career.
Right, but I think Hollywood is more. I think he's more well-rounded. He's small. He's 5'9", 180. Deshaun Jackson was like 5'9", 165, 170.
Yeah.
But regardless,
for me, I think his comp is Philip Dorsett.
Oh gosh, come on, dude.
That's disrespectful. That is terrible.
Philip Dorsett
Hollywood has a 1,000-yard season under his belt.
Dorsett was a bust, dude.
I don't think. Oh, okay. What about this? I really don't think Hollywood Brown will beat out what's his name, Christian Watson.
What? Why are you comparing them?
Because they're on the same team.
What?
No, we got Christian Watson.
Christian Watson is on the Packers. What are we talking about?
Watson. What's his name? Watson on
Justin Watson?
Justin Watson.
That name is like a special teamer for the Chiefs.
No, he's not. Because guess what?
It does not barely plays.
Here's the difference. They run the same speed, actually. They run the same speed, and he's actually 6'4". And he's big.
Olu.
Yes.
They did not sign Marquise Hollywood Brown. He signed a 1-year, $7 million deal. They didn't sign him because to replace Justin Watson.
Watson.
Justin Watson is Justin Shorter. He's the same as Justin Shorter on the Bills. Ain't gonna do nothing. Irrelevant.
Old guy.
I would put Hollywood as a mid-range, a low wide receiver too. That's what I would do. I think he's going to be overdrafted because he is in Kansas City. So I think people are going to be, oh, he's there now. I'm going to take him. You know what I think this is? Olu? I think this is the equivalent of Brandon Cooks signing with the New England Patriots.
No, stop. Don't do that.
Yes, that's good. That's fair.
That's exactly what this is. That's exactly what this is.
That's fair.
Did you know
Brandon actually produced
went a time in his year where he had multiple 1,000 yards receiving, like for like a 7-season stretch?
Yeah, that's great. But when he signed with New England, all he had was 65 catches for 1,082 yards.
That's what Hollywood's going to have. That's about Hollywood's range.
He played 16 games, all 16 games, 65 catches, 1,082 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
Okay, mind you, you got. Okay, it's all about context, guys. He signed with New England. What does Brady do? What does Brady do better than anybody ever? I mean, one of the things, he spreads the ball around. You're not supposed to have many catches in New England. Nobody has a lot of catches in New England. He spreads the ball around.
That's what Mahomes does now.
There's Edelman, there's Gronk.
So what we're saying is 65 catches, 1,082 yards, and 7 touchdowns.
I'm sorry.
That is within the range of outcomes for Hollywood Brown.
I'm not going to put Hollywood Brown and Brandon Cooks in the same place because Hollywood Brown hasn't shown us he's not capable of that level.
No. Brandon Cooks is obviously way better. Matt is saying for this one season. one season, it's a fair comp.
No, it's not, guys. He has not shown us he has that level of productivity. He hasn't. Even though he was the lead receiver with the Baltimore Ravens, he was the lead receiver with Arizona 2 years in a row. He has never shown us the same level. He's only had 1,000 yards career in five seasons. Brandon Cook does that in his sleep. So I cannot say he's going to have the level of productivity of Brandon Cooks at any point in his career.
So here we go. This is how we'll end it. Marquise Brown, over or under 1,000 yards?
Under. Absolutely.
Over.
Under. Is your player. So
I will take him under 1,000 yards. But I think he'll get a solid like 900 to 950.
Okay, sure. Under for sure. He's never
that we're gonna wrap it up there. We could talk about Hollywood Brown and his comp to don't play the theme music yet. Look, the next 2 weeks we have some exciting stuff coming. You really stopped the theme music. Okay, we have some exciting. You can play the theme music. Cue my theme music.
Right.
Hey, why did you play the theme music? I was joking. I'm just kidding. I'm playing with you. But next week is the NFL draft week. We will come out with some draft predictions. And then right after the draft, we'll have some draft reactions. But thanks for stopping by with your hosts, Shed, Olu, Will, and Matt. We will see you again.
Remember, Philip Joseph is Marcus Brown into the Ignore
him.